Hey, Brad, just on the drafting of Davison, what's the thought process in selecting him, and what's the plan?
Yeah, so we'll talk about all the plans and everything else later. But obviously, he's a guy that we've seen all year long. Very young, very explosive. That's pretty obvious. Has the ability to get inside the paint and make plays, and has some things that he'll have to improve on. But has a lot of physical tools. A good competitor. And
Recording in progress.
and obviously, I think played in a really good program for really good coaches. And so we're looking forward to getting him up to Boston.
Any additional questions for Brad? Adam Himmelsbach.
Hey, Brad. You just kind of, I know this year was a little bit different than most years other than last year, of course. But what was the approach going to the night? Was there a time you guys thought you might try to do anything bigger, or was it did you have a good sense all along it was probably going to be a pick that you're going to use?
Yeah, I mean, the cost for moving up was just too much for where we are. Whether that was into the 20s or even the 30s or even the low 40s, for us it was, okay, we've got a good list of guys that we're comfortable with, and as the draft continued, and it became obvious that we had 2 or 3 guys still on our board there in the last couple of picks to choose from. Felt pretty good about it. Tonight was about finding somebody that we could invest in, that we could put a lot of time into, that we could help grow in their young career, and hopefully help them, help JD in particular, but whoever we picked in that spot, get better and really start their career off on the right foot with an investment from a staff and an organization for the long term. So we weren't looking for anybody necessarily that was going to come in and change the game for our team at 53. And so, we talked about moving up, but parting with, significant players on our team, or parting with draft assets that you can use with these TPEs and the trade deadline and those type of things didn't make much sense.
Jared Weiss.
With JD, he seems to have incredible pop and athleticism and speed. What does he need to learn in order to be able to kind of play with control while also playing at a high speed?
Well, I mean, he's, first of all, what is it, June? So he's 12 months removed from high school graduation, right? So he's played 1 year of college basketball at a very high level, on a good team, and with another, with guys that were there that were, good playmakers in their own right. He had some incredible games, and he had some games where he looked like a freshman, but he also, has, consistently competed, consistently carried himself well on the court. And again, like, the ability to get into the paint is a hard thing to be able to do in this league. And so whether in transition or off of a ball screen, off an action, to be able to get into the paint. And then you learn as time goes on what the right reads are around you and making the right plays. And some of that comes with experience, but we do think he's got a good feel as far as getting the ball out of his hands quickly and finding the right people, especially on spot ups. Very unselfish in that regard. But there are things that he's got to improve, as any 19-year-old would be. But we're looking forward to helping him do that. That's our task.
Bobby Manning.
Hey, Brad, I'm sure you had to cast a pretty wide net with this pick, considering the amount of different ways the draft could go before it gets to you. But just how much did you, personally get to know JD and get to see and invest in him a little bit in the preparation process leading up to this?
Yeah, I haven't personally spent as much time with him. Certainly we've had guys come through. He was not amongst the guys that came through for a draft workout. But some of that was truncated by our own travels, and some of that was just decisions, made by others where they could send him. There's only so many draft workouts these guys can go and do. But we spent a lot of time scouting him in person this year. I went to a practice in October and watched him practice at Alabama. We saw several games live as a staff. So very well versed in who he is and what he brings to the table, and also what he's got to work on. And but the most important thing right now is how do we help him transition smoothly. This is it's a big life moment for him, and then in a couple days you're on a plane to Boston, and you're in a whole new place. And how do we help him really start off on the right foot? Can't wait to get him in summer league practice and get him going.
Gary Washburn.
Hey, Brad. Usually in the spot, besides Tremont, you've taken maybe guys drafted and stash, or guys that you knew you weren't going to come over for a couple of years. What stood out about JD that he's a one and done? He's like you said, he's a kid who literally doesn't turn 20, I don't think, until October or something. So he's a young kid. What about him said, okay, let's develop this kid, as opposed to maybe taking a kid who you might not see for a couple of years?
Well, I think we're in a position roster-wise where we've got to, we've got to evaluate the back end of our roster and decide on the guys that were here, decide on who we can add, again, via trade or via free agency. But we're in a position roster-wise where we can, focus on the development of a young player or two, too. And I think that that's important. We traded the last couple of first-round picks. We like the guys that are playing overseas. Both Yam and Juhan are guys that are consistently getting better, and we think highly of. And then JD's, all you have to do is turn on a couple minutes of clips, and you can see the upside. So now it's about, making it so that he gets his, accustomed to the NBA game, and he's not going to have, barring anything crazy here, like he's not going to have a ton of pressure to come in and impact us right away or move the needle for us right away. He'll be able to compete for minutes just like everybody else, but at the same time, like he can grow, develop, and focus his attention on improving. And I think that that's really a important place to be for a young player. We've got a really good team, but he'll be able to put some heat on us, with his speed on both ends of the floor that I'm looking forward to.
Last couple questions. First one from Brian Robb.
Hey, Brad. Couple questions for you. First, you mentioned JD anticipated him playing in summer league. Who else do you guys know yet? Who else on the current roster you would be planning on playing there as well with him? And I guess with that, just the competition level, for the spots at the end of the bench with these guys, for that group, how much year to see, everyone kind of compete in that level.
Yeah, that'll be great. Summer league practice will be the start of that. I think Austin put the list out the other day. That's, if not all, most of who will be playing, and so we're looking forward to that. I know our guys that are, have had a full week off now, are looking forward to being back in the gym soon and practicing, and it's turn right back around and get after it. So that'll be good.
Brian, you had a follow-up question?
Hey, Brad. Additionally, you mentioned, talking about trade tonight and the price of moving up. You guys have, a couple of these trade exceptions, one that expires next month. What is the, heading into free agency now, what's the process like for you guys, knowing that, evaluating possibilities of that and the making a move of it now versus waiting for possibilities that could come up in a week or two down the road? How did you kind of gauge that during the trade landscape talks tonight, and how do you kind of approach that going forward heading into free agency?
Well, I mean, we've been having these talks for a while now, right? Like when we've known who fits into our trade exception and who we might be able to target around the league and at least have discussions about. But then it really comes down to costs. And so, if the costs, are appropriate, then you continue discussions, and if they're not, then you table it for now, and maybe you return to those later. But like at the end of the day, the trade exception is a tool, but it's not our only avenue. I think we've got the ability to do some small things in free agency with the taxpayer mid-level, and and obviously the ability to add minimums, and then if that thing vanquishes because we don't find the right deal, then we still have two other TPEs to use towards the trade deadline. So that was one of the things about tonight. We wanted to make sure we were smart about all of our future assets. We're smart about, not shifting our team that, without very, very, very obvious moves that would help us. And so those things didn't present themselves, and so we'll stay at it to see if we can find some things that help improve us.
Final question from Keith Smith.
Hey, Brad, on Yam and Yuhan, is there a chance that they're on the regular season roster this year? And then in addition to that, with only the one pick, is there a chance one of the two-way guys is maybe back on a two-way again next year?
Yeah, I mean everything's fluid right now, right? We can do a lot of different things. We can go in a lot of different ways, and we'll discuss all that. A great time to discuss all that will be after Summer League, after these guys are all here and they all play and they all compete and practice and everything else. There's a lot of moving parts, and there's a lot of roster flexibility, and that doesn't include, obviously, again, anybody else that we bring in from the outside that we don't even aren't even talking about tonight. So we'll see how that all shakes itself out. Got a lot of options. Everybody that you've mentioned, as far as positionally, are all good players, and we're looking forward to seeing how that shakes itself out.
Thanks very much, Brad. We'll wrap it up right there.
Thank you.